Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me just check and make sure that this is running properly. Oh, all right. It looks like not only is it working, but we've got the chat thing going. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see how I can fix this. Okay, if you are on the chat area and you can hear me fine and all of that is good, just let me know. All right, I think I've got it all sorted out and in the right window. Yes, okay, so I'm getting yes that everyone can hear me, that those things are all right. Okay, great. So to start with this morning, first of all, I'm just really glad that everybody's here because we've got a lot of really good things to look at, especially since last time, and now especially heading into the next few months. But something I'd like to look at first of all is the fact that the vast majority of you, I didn't get any email about your intentions or anything like that. And I just really want to check in and make sure that you're clear about putting in the dedication to yourself. So deciding and putting in that attention toward you, because for a lot of reasons. For one thing, you giving to you making the decision that you're not just that you're giving to you, but also that you're receiving, that sets up everything else in your life. So if you're not willing to be really, really giving to yourself, then the message is sent out that you're not to be given to. Does that make sense? So you're the one that decides and sets the stage and sets the template for you being given to. Okay, so that's really, really, really important. And we're going to look at that and clear up some things so that we can open that up today. But you know, I know it's going to sound probably hokey, but I remember all the way back to a plane trip that I took when Alex was, you know, a little bitty tyke, however small enough that when the flight attendant comes walking by, she gives you the notice, you know, put your mask first. And I'm sure that in the realm of personal development, that's a well-used analogy and people have heard it a million times. But that day on that plane, I had not been around those things. I had not read any of those books. That wasn't familiar to me. So as I was sitting there and the flight attendant came by and explained that to me, I had an honest to goodness inner realization about it. And the next thing I know, the plane's getting ready to take off and I'm sitting there with tears streaming down my face because I really got it. Oh my gosh, right. Mine. If I can't breathe, I'm no good to anybody. So that's really what it's like. Even if you've heard it a million times before, it's really time to tune in and recognize that all the areas of your life that you might have thought that something is lacking because something needs to be coming to you, since it's actually from inside of you that all those areas of your life are being created. What you've got to do is be letting yourself be given to enough, and you giving to yourself, and you being willing to receive from inside of you to let that overflow happen in all of your life. So that's what, and I know it can be a big shift to make when we've been operating from lack, to instead recognize that all of those areas, we're actually operating them from our overflow. Okay. So if you think you don't have enough time to do the things you'd like to do, it's not that there's time missing. It's that you're not operating in enough of an overflow with yourself for you to overflow into an abundance of time. If you feel like you don't have enough money coming in, then it's not that there's not enough money to come in. It's that you're not operating in yourself from enough of a place of overflow for you to be overflowing your own self, your own energy into that area that you call money, and letting it bloom. Okay. The same with health in your body and happiness in your relationships, and you name it, all those things. So something I'd like to invite you to do right away today, just even as we're beginning this session, is to come to a point of decision inside of yourself of how much are you willing to set the standard, so to set the stage, to set that template of how much is being given to you, of how much you are the first one to have the mask on, and that everything else overflows from that. That's what's just really, really important. Okay. So let's take a minute to just settle in and work with that in order to open up the next things we're going to deal with. So give yourself a minute to just, again, you don't have to forcefully have a deep breath. It's just that surrender of letting all the breath that can come in. There you go. Allowing it all the way in and allowing it all the way down and allowing it all the way through. And giving it that minute to circulate inside of you. And then that complete surrender on the other side as well, that complete release of giving permission for all the air to come back out. There's not any that you're holding back. So have a series of a few breaths like that, where you're letting everything come in. You're willing to accept it all, receive it all, breathe it all the way down into you, all the way through you, letting it circulate completely through you, and then being willing to let all of it go, not holding anything back. Surrendering on both sides of that breath. There you go. Letting it come in, letting it circulate, letting it leave. Great. And from here, now taking a minute to just ask yourself, just from a receptive place, asking yourself where you stand right now. How much have you been willing to decide what is given to you? How much have you been willing to take that stand and decide, you know what, I'm going to be completely in my infinite self and let the overflow that happens from that happen? Because it does have to be a decision ahead of time. The same way the flight attendant came down the aisle and was making it clear to me, giving me the instructions ahead of time so that I would know that it was already decided my mask goes on first, not in the moment where there's, then there's an emergency. And then I'm saying, okay, well, this is how it's going to happen, that it's already set. So how much do you have it already in place, already decided that you're always setting the example of how much is given to you, how much you're willing to receive, so that then that overflow is available, so that that's open. So some of the ways of setting that and some of the ways of doing that are, you know, overall in big way, like first of all, you're here right now, right? So obviously you have some dedication to that, to yourself, to your unfolding and all those things. At the same time, something I found is even, it doesn't always have to be something huge if it's something frequent. Okay. So what I'd invite you to also look at and take inventory of during this session or afterwards is what you're really committed to on a daily basis, right? So even if it's just a few minutes at a time, I want you to really get honest with yourself about that, about how much are you giving to yourself every single day, right? What would it take for you to be willing to draw that line that says, you know what, I am giving to myself every day in these ways, and then, you know, decide whatever it is that that's important to you, that works for you. Okay. And you're already doing this in lots of ways that you might not even be that aware of, right? I'd be willing to bet that, sorry guys, I got an itchy nose, that you eat every day, right? And that's not a big fuss. In fact, it would probably take a fuss to, you know, to get most people to not eat for a few days or something like that. So even if you start to just take the things that you are already doing and seeing them as giving to yourself and participating consciously in that is also going to make a difference. So see what new things you can put in place that are that decision to give to yourself. And then look around in your life for the things that you're already doing every day that you now look at them in a conscious way of recognizing that these are things that you're doing to give to yourself. Okay, so when you sit down to a meal, or when you even just, you know, when you get behind the wheel of your car and you recognize, you know what, look what I've done. I've created this and I've given to myself the convenience and ease of driving around in this vehicle, right? When you go to bed at night, recognize that you're consciously choosing to give yourself each day the gift of rest and rejuvenation and replenishment. So even those things that you're already doing, when you are in recognition consciously of the fact that you're doing them, it's just gonna come through in a different way. Okay, does that make sense? Let me see. I forget about this chat thing. Okay, so there's nothing new on there. Good enough. Let me see. Let me put this thing so I can see it all the time, if that can work. Okay. Great. Awesome. All right. So looking at those things, it's really important. One of the first things we're going to look at right now, though, and go through a process about, because it's just coming forward as something that's got to be cleared up in order to make room for a lot of other things for you, is the issue of time. So whether that seems like consciously something that you struggle with or not, I invite you to go ahead and give 100% to what we're about to do, so that, you know, you reap the benefits across the board regardless, because it's tied into a lot of different things, even in subtle ways that we might not usually pay attention to. Okay, so just settle in. And you're probably already aware, at least intellectually, that time is not really what we think it is, right? And that one of the sources of a lot of our confusion, a lot of our stress, is us trying to fight against time when it's it's not even what we have it set up to be, okay? So just settle in, close your eyes, and we're going to start with something small, and then we're going to build out in order to let yourself have a reminder, really, because it's already in you, it's already known in you, the truth of this and an understanding of it. So what we're looking to do is just walk you through reactivating that, reawakening that understanding, okay? So if you first, now with your eyes closed, just having deep breaths, picturing for yourself something that is probably already familiar to you in its movement of life, right? So if you imagine you've planted a little plant, okay? We're going to go all the way from the beginning of this plant. So imagine it now, feel it, see it, what it's like when you've put this little plant in the ground and you watch it start to sprout up through the ground and you watch it grow leaves and you watch it continue to grow until it's really sprouted. And then you watch it bloom, whatever it is, whatever kind of plant it is, if it has flowers, if it bears fruit, whatever it is, watching that plant all the way into its full bloom, seeing the flower fall, seeing the fruit fall, seeing the plant start to wither, right? Rather than being in that blooming aspect, it's now pulling back. All the way until you see the plant just a little brown shadow of what it had been. And seeing even that plant now, what had been the plant, that one little wiry piece left back down in the soil, finally sinking all the way back into the soil until you don't even see it anymore. Okay, and just take a deep breath in and just feel what it is to experience all of that right now in this moment. Okay, and notice the expansiveness of that. Notice what it is to you for you to come from the perspective of having seen all of that already take place. Okay, now we're going to go a step bigger. Now, picture either, just from your own imagination, or maybe you've seen photographs that you can bring to mind of some time prior to your own appearance on this planet. So picture it right now, whether it's something that you've seen or heard of what the world looked like in the area that you were born in. Maybe it's a picture that you've seen of your parents at the time prior to when you were born. But see it right now, witness it, experience it, feel it. The world and the people in that world before you were here. Okay, now watch, again, from your own imagination, or you've probably seen pictures of yourself when you were an infant. Now watch that tiny little you. Notice that you're aware of the change that's happened in you between then and now. Whether time has passed or not, you can have an awareness of that tiny brand new baby, and you have an awareness of you as you think you are right now. Now keep watching right through right up to the first time that you remember now thinking that that was you. Whatever age that was, you're toddling around, and you now can remember seeing out through those eyes to the rest of the world. Watch that happen. And give yourself a minute to just watch a collage of this whole movie of what you think is your life from then until this moment. And now let yourself continue. Conjure up any picture of what your life and what you think is you looks like in a year's time. And now go 5 years. And what about 10 years? What about 25 years? Continuing just letting that tape roll forward. And now go ahead and give yourself permission to watch, to experience this version of you, this body being finished in this world. Give yourself permission now to watch it happen. You watched your birth, and now you've watched your life. And so now watch the equivalent death to that birth. And watch what happens afterwards. Watch the world. Watch the people who were around you in this world. Watch it continue to unfold. Watch that time continue to progress. And notice the expansiveness in that, of you stepping back and allowing yourself to experience all in this moment, the time prior to what you call you, the birth of what you call you, this entire progression of this body, this lifetime, this experience, watching it fade away, and then watching what continues after that. Take a deep breath in. And now we're going to take another step back. So in whatever way you can conceive of it, give yourself permission to see the universe prior to what you call the earth. And this is just for you to feel into this, of this progression of things. It doesn't have to be a scientifically accurate depiction of this earth coming into being by whatever means, by whatever, who knows. But just giving yourself the space to be infinite enough to watch that happen, to watch the earth come into being, to watch that progression. Imagine yourself, feel yourself right now on the surface of whatever you would consider, whatever comes to mind as a really ancient earth, taking its first breaths. See what that feels like. Okay, and again, let the tape roll forward through all the things that have happened, all the changes, all the events, storms passing across the surface of the earth, earthquakes happening, volcanoes happening, all of these events that have been experienced, all the way to the present, all the way rolling forward through more events, through changes. Until you can back all the way back out, so far into space and so far out in time that The same way you just see when you, in your house, when you turn on the light switch and turn it off and the light comes on and then it goes off, that even what we call our sun, you've just watched it come into being, burn, and burn out. Take a deep breath. But notice what you do experience from that perspective, from that level of spaciousness. How many other things are you aware of? Far more than all the things that you previously thought were so big. When you're all the way out at the level of watching even our sun blink into being, burn, and burn completely out, what happens? Another deep breath in. What do you notice that you're in touch with now? From this place, what is your idea of you? Okay, so have another deep breath. So this also brings us to, now that you've experienced that, you've experienced what it is to really remind yourself that you are conscious of everything far beyond the passing of time and the passing of what we call birth and death, that are as far as I can see with people, the biggest fear that we have is not even of death, right? When we talk about death and that's the end of this life or the end of this body or any of those things. And I invite you to, check it out for yourself. But you'll notice if you observe closely, there's lots of circumstances under which people are actually willing to choose death. And the reason for that, I would say that the number one greatest fear that people are carrying around is not of death at all. It's of the separation from love. It's actually more important to people to be loved, to feel connected with love than to be existing, to be alive. If you look at it, what people really define as really being alive, right? Like if they feel alive and not just, not dead, it's always going to have to do with love. So when people are willing to commit suicide, for example, what's happened? They've reached a point where they feel so disconnected from love that that's so agonizing to them that they're willing to do whatever they have to think that somehow they're going to be able to either reconnect with that love, right? Depending on what somebody's beliefs are. Some, they might have an idea that through death, they're going to get that, welcome back into God or whatever it is, right? Or that they're just past a point of feeling like they can cope with the amount of separation that they're feeling in their life from love, right? Or another instance would be when people are where it may or may not be necessarily suicide in the strictest terms, but when people are willing to go and still basically choose to die, right? But in situations that are where they think that they're saving someone else, or they think that there's some sort of honor connected to it, or any of those things, you'll notice again in those situations, death is coming at less of a priority than love, right? If someone goes in and chooses to die or chooses to sacrifice themselves for someone to save someone else, that it's because they're feeling connected to love in that moment. They feel like they're doing a really loving, giving thing. Or if they're choosing death in a case where they feel like that they're going to be honored for that. Again, it's that in that moment, they feel connected to the idea that they are going to be loved. So it's really, that's the biggest root thing. It's not really about life and death as much as we tend to think it is. It's really about love or not. And like I said, even in the times when, if you catch someone who even if they're describing themselves as, I feel so alive, right? What that life force is, what we even refer to as life, that's what it is. It's that energy of love moving through us. So that's really what, at the very root of it, everybody's most afraid of, and everybody's most doing everything to try to accomplish, is to resolve that feeling of feeling separated from what we call love. Okay. So, and as you know, that then has so many different ramifications. Okay. Now, when that is the concern, we tend to put things back on ourselves. So to the extent that there's this underlying belief running that says, I'm no good, I'm not enough, I'm not fill in the blank enough, any of those things, it's all, that then creates this undercurrent of that separation from love. Okay. So then that's how we then stack on top of that all of this work and all of this effort to think that what we first have to do is repair what we think is so bad and wrong and deficient about ourselves, because the idea is that that has to be done first in order for there to be any hope of this reconnection with that love by whatever means. Okay, so we're going to really be digging into all the ways that that shows up, that those really subtle ideas of, including one of them is when people have the idea like, oh, well, that doesn't work for me, or nothing works for me. Okay, what the reason for that, when people have that sense of, well, I saw it work for other people, it worked for everybody else, and it didn't work for me, that's one symptom of that underlying belief that's saying, like I said, it's just that, you know, those red circle things like this, right? It's just you with that, it's just that energy of that getting stamped, you stamping that on yourself, of just that big no, right? In whatever form of, I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm not, you know, it's not whatever, I'm no good, and so on. So as that gets set in place to begin with, and then gets reinforced over the years by us choosing to take other people's beliefs as fact, for one thing, then it just builds up and builds up. And so one of the ways that we're going to counteract that is fundamentally shifting how you deal with your own process of growth. Okay. So, and here's what I mean by that. When you're beginning from this, with that underlying belief still in play that says that you're bad, you're wrong, you're no good, any of those things, then it's going to be natural for that to be that your first attempt to do anything about that, and all attempts are going to be this kind of efforted, predetermined, like you're going to have the idea, okay, well, what I need to be is this, and what I am is this. So I'm going to come and enforce whatever to bring myself from here to there. Okay. And that can seem really innocent and really helpful and really positive to, hey, well, I'm going to improve myself. And that's, you know, that's good news. Except that's built on that first problematic belief saying that there's something wrong with you, that you're no good. Okay. So what we're going to do is turn that around, is shift that to you approaching yourself from a really open, receptive place, from a place of listening and giving, rather than this place of coming in and imposing your will. Okay. So if you were to liken it to a situation with a child, right? So it's the difference between a child is playing and exploring and doing whatever, and the parent walks in and with that attitude of, I know what's what, I know what's right for you, I'm going to tell you how to change to something better, right? Like that, it's that energy. The difference between that or the adult walking in the room and asking the child, what's going on? What is it that you'd like to do? What, you know what I mean? Finding out what the situation is, finding out what the child's perspective is, finding out what's actually going on, rather than walking in with the presumption that they already know and already have the solution. I'd like you to not walk in on yourself with the idea that you already have the solution and that you just haven't been cooperative before now. Okay. Instead, walking in and treating yourself with a curiosity that says, I'm interested to listen and to find out where you're at. And then whatever that is, I'm willing to give to you whatever's necessary from here. Okay. So we're going to keep checking in on that as we move along. But from the beginning, I'd like you to start to focus on that, of how you approach yourself. Watch for it, of whether you're approaching it as, I already know what's wrong with me and I already know what it needs to get fixed to. And so the only missing piece is, I need to cooperate to get from here to here. Instead, just sitting down with yourself. And we touched on this some last time about how much you've been willing to sit and just be with yourself, not in a fixing way, not in a changing way, and to find out what's going on. So the second part of that, like I said, it's the first, the listening, and then the giving. So it's being willing to be with yourself in that curious way and find out what's actually going on, and then being willing to answer that in a giving way. So without judgment and without withholding. So even if what you were to find out when you listen is that from inside of you, you just need some more space, or you just need whatever it is, even if it sounds something silly, even if it sounds like it's out of the mouth of a 2-year-old, that you decide ahead of time you're willing to give that it's not going to be conditional, that it's not going to be, well, if what I hear from inside of myself matches up with the ideas I already have about what I'm supposed to do. And, like if I listen to myself and myself says, meditate 2 hours a day, then yeah, I'll do it. But if I listen to myself and myself says, go outside and smell a flower, that's silly. I'm not going to listen. Okay. So you have to kind of decide ahead of time that you're going to be willing to answer whatever it is. Okay. So before we go further, let's go ahead and check in, because I'm now also remembering that you did have some things to start to look at and start to work on last time. So if you want to write something in the chat, if you want to say something about how things have gone since last time, or if there's something you want me to address. And then as far as the video situation goes, I think that we can even talk back and forth on video if you're hooked in to the Google thing, which, Peter, I have yours, and I'm not sure. I'm sure I could see what I could press if you wanted to speak on that. The other thing, you know what I'm going to do? This is going to be kind of a low-tech way to patch this through, but why isn't this doing anything? Anybody? I think you have my Gmail account, so we may be able to chat. Not sure how it works. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Peter, do you have a question? Do you want to have something that do you have something that you want to work on? Because I'm sure we can do that in a video way if need be. Otherwise, what we can do, I usually don't have my phone nearby when I'm doing things like this, but you can just give me a call, right? And then that way I can just have it on speaker and we can, if you have a particular question, we can handle it that way. Okay, so that'll give us sort of a workaround for the moment if anybody wants to do that. Yeah, so Pete, I have you included in the, I had you already in the, whatever you want to call it, in this video thing. I don't know what I have to do to let you, just reporting in about an insight. Okay, cool. Let's see how I can do this. I know, Peter, are you on the Google thing or are you on the screen on my page? Okay. Okay. Why is it doing this? Okay. You're on the chat box. Okay. So Pete, you're on the web page. Okay. Got it. Okay. Peter said he's just going to call. Yeah. When I set it up for today, I included you on the Google thing, which I thought was all that needed to happen for you to be able to jump in on the video as long as I gave permission for it. So it seems to work differently than when I tested this, because I did do a test run with it, but it seems like Google has two different versions. And since I wasn't looking for it to be like a live broadcast when I was testing it, I think what that does is it throws you into a completely different version that works differently. So we'll get it all sorted out. Meanwhile, like I said, we have the workaround that anybody that wants to speak up about something, just call me. You all have my phone number. So just do that and we can talk that way. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to move to anything else yet because Peter says he's calling me. So we'll give that just a minute. All right, here you go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, super. So what do you have to share?
It's a little strange that your video is a little off. I mean, the sync is off for some reason, but that's okay.
Oh, you know what? I think it just depends on how much internet there is at any moment. Like, I think the thing adjusts itself so that I think it has a priority on like, like preserving the audio quality. Yep, go ahead.
So now, I don't know if you can hear me. You can hear me now?
I hear you.
Bowls?
Yeah, I hear you fine. You're coming through my phone.
Oh, okay. Anyway. It's so funny how it's behind a little bit on right. Okay.
Okay, so share your insight. I'm putting you near the mic so everybody can hear you.
Will do. Just give me a second because it's a lot of things going on. I'm just going to put you on pause on my side for a second so I'll be able to talk. Okay, hi. The insight was I'm in the middle of kind of pivoting careers, switching a little bit, and I looked at how I was treating this new direction, and my thought was, I'm really depending on this to save me on some level. I was putting a lot of pressure on this change that I decided to make. And I said, do I want to enter a relationship like this? I was looking at money. I said, well, money, you've done this to me, you've done that to me. And of course, money's going to come back saying, why are you putting so much pressure on me? Well, if you just be nice to me, if you just be all right with me, I'll take care of you. So I saw I was starting to do the same thing, maybe with this new career direction. I was saying, this is going to save me, and you're going to take care of me, or else. And I said, why would I want to kick off a relationship like that? How about what you touched on earlier, loving it, being open and seeing it and welcoming it and listening to what's going on. So that was really a very positive thing that occurred.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. So, yeah, I'm also looking at, we just have a comment on the chat that says, I loved the work of listening to grievances around jobs not landing for me. I received the response, so you make it all such a big deal. I can't fully explore my potential until you allow me to be free. I am bigger than you know and so much easier. You've been playing small with me. I want room to shout, dance, sing, and shine. So that's wonderful. And that's very much similar to what you said, of if you're making it that there's that dependency, right? That's totally the opposite energy of then that thriving, expansive energy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I'm putting,
thank you.
I just got the chat thing working. So I just put in, for anybody that doesn't have my cell number, I just put that into the chat box. And meanwhile, just as you were calling, Pete, somebody else was calling. I think I know who it is. So I'm going to give her a ring back.
Sure.
And we'll go from there. Thanks for sharing that, though. That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, great. So this is working as our technical go-around for the moment, is just using the speakerphone, and that way everybody can jump in. Hey, Nancy? Hello? Hi. Yeah, I'm hearing me in the background on a delay.
Yep, you are delayed.
Yeah, so do you want to pause that so that you can just hear me live talking to you? Yeah.
Yep.
And then when we're done talking, you can go back to the thing, but there should be something that you can hit that'll make it skip forward so you'll be caught up live again. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So what's going on?
Okay, so I am one of your people who did not send in an intention because I have no clue what I intended to do with this 6 months. So, but what I did do is I did with the sitting with myself. And when I sat with myself, I realized, oh, I can be so much more than what I would have come up with an intention. In other words, I was doing like Katrina, being small, or what she was saying, and being small, instead of just, is it okay to have no intention and just let it open up, like blossom before you?
Yeah. So, and that's a great question. And I like this because you can have your intention come from a place that's more than what the mind knows how to understand. Right. So,
right.
And it's what I think we dealt with this either last time or on one of the previews or something, but about that marriage of structure and openness, that marriage of form and formlessness, right? So you can have an intent that leaves open space. Okay. So for example, when you put a seed in the ground, there's definitely there's not a micromanagement of how that flower is going to bloom and when, right? But there's
right.
still a really clear intent that is going to happen.
Right. And then so as a flower, I can say, I can decide, I guess not being the flower, but being the infinite person I am, I can decide, yes, I will allow myself to have plenty of water, plenty of sun, that I can be the most whatever I want to be.
Absolutely. So, and that's what I mean is if you were the one that planted the flower, there's all sorts of things beyond our mind's comprehension that are happening in that plant and in the interaction between the plant and the elements that we really can't mess with. We just have to stand back and watch it happen, right? But on our end, our intent would be, if it's looking droopy, I'm gonna give it water, right? If it needs to be in the sun, I'm gonna put it in the sun. So that's kind of what you're doing with yourself is you're standing back, you're taking your hands off the reins in the sense of letting yourself bloom and thrive in this expansive way that's more than your mind can possibly comprehend. And that's where all the miracles show up. But what you're doing from the end that your mind does know about, you're committing to, well, you know what? I'm going to give myself this time and attention and love and that open listening space to myself and all those things. So when you say your intent for the 6 months, you might not at first have an idea of what you want to do for the 6 months, or even if you do, it might get completely blown out of the water, right?
Right.
So what you can start with is what your dedication, what your promises to yourself are. So you could start with, well, you know what? I promise for myself for the next 6 months that I'm going to be more gentle, that I am going to listen to myself, that I am going to let myself know that I'm loved every single day.
Okay.
Those kind of things. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because
then I allow myself to have this 6 months of a mystery where I don't know the ending, I don't know the answers, and I'm just going to go for it and with curiosity and see what comes up at the end of 6 months.
Right. And then what you can mesh that together with, some ideas of the kinds of things that you would like to see, whether they're particular things or whether it's what those things feel like. Right. So you might have the idea that in the next 6 months, you'd like to take a trip to a certain place. So you might put that down, or it might be, well, in the next 6 months, I'd like to have an experience of what it is to travel to a new place and explore somewhere I haven't been before.
Yeah, which would be, in my case, to get rid of stuff, move to a new place, which is only 2 bedrooms, where I've never lived before, where everything is with very little stuff. That's my new adventure.
Okay. So with that intent, what you could do, because again, there's lots of ways that you can surprise yourself in how that unfolds, right?
Ah.
So
Yeah,
what you
my mind has it. This is what I got to be, and I've got to be restricted to this two bedrooms and blah 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 blah.
Okay, so feel into it now. What is it that you really are looking to feel from that experience? What is it that you're, the gift that you're trying to give yourself from that experience? What you're looking to learn from that experience? When you've, like, in your mind, roll the tape forward and you've successfully done that, what is it like on the other side?
It's like freedom to
Okay.
have stuff or not have stuff, but just this total freedom without anything clutching, saying I own you.
Okay, so that's the intent you're going to put for the 6 months is, right? I am experiencing freedom of movement in this material world.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
Right? Because that doesn't have to be 2 bedrooms. There are people who might own 10 different mansions all around the world that are each, 9 bedrooms or something, loaded with stuff. But if they don't give any of those places 1 ounce more thought than what they require, then they're just as free as somebody with no belongings. Right? So if they have all those houses and they're not losing sleep at night because they're thinking about, well, what about that sofa in house number 3? Do I know blah, 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 and they've got it set up for other people to be taking care of it or whatever. That's the question. It's how much is it, that non-freedom is in our thoughts. It's how much are we letting ourselves be plagued by that. So even somebody in a 1-bedroom apartment, if it's going to keep them up at night of whether or not the stuff in their one little closet is organized or not, and I'm serious. I'm serious because I have to admit, I'm speaking from experience there. I can remember lying awake in my college dorm room, I kid you not, plagued by too much stuff. And I guarantee you it wasn't that I had too much stuff. It was that I was crazy. Okay.
Yeah, because my mind is just running all the time. Yes, you have too much stuff. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. Blah 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 blah. I go like, so yeah, it's not free at all. I can't come and go. Right.
So it's too many thoughts. So let's tune into that and start to clear it up right now. Okay. And everybody play along, because I guarantee you've got thought excess somewhere, whether it's about actual stuff or whether it's about whatever, right? Okay, so let's work on that right now, that excess of thought. Let's because if we could go and have like a thought yard sale and clear it out.
Yeah, let's have a thought yard sale. I like that.
Then we would do it, right? So that's what everybody's looking to do. Everybody's like, oh my God, relieve me of all this stuff so I don't have to think about it anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, so everybody listening right now, tune into what it is that pulls your attention, right? That brings you into separation, that gets you believing that there are things that have to be attended to before you remember that you're loved. You've got a list, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. Yeah, it's just reeling it up. It's just coming down like a computer thing.
Yeah. Okay. So let that whole computer menu come in front of you. And right now, you don't even have to try to fight to like hit the delete button on all of it. Just let the whole thing scroll, right? Okay, just letting yourself take notice, letting yourself give space to all these things that you think you've had a responsibility to.
And I gotta be happy cramped into a 2-bedroom little teeny pink little thing.
Right. Which may or may not be your actual path. You don't know.
Right.
Okay. But what you do know, because it's been forcing you to address it, what you do know is that your path is bringing yourself to this point of freedom from being plagued by these things, from being plagued by these thoughts, and back into this freedom of you having nothing that you have to first attend to in order to remember the love that you are. Okay, so take a deep breath in to give yourself permission to get back in touch with that love that's already present. Even as all these things are scrolled on the screen, right?
Right.
Okay, so the biggest gift that you're asking for, the big thing that you're hoping for is this freedom, right?
Yes.
So chances are that's the biggest gift that you could give all of these things that are in your mind plaguing you as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so from that wide open place, from that love that you are, take a deep breath in, and then are you willing to give all of the things on that list that same freedom? Are you willing to open up your arms, open up your heart, and extend that same gift of freedom to everything that you thought you had to attend to?
Yes.
Okay, and notice that once it has that freedom, basically anything can happen, right? Something can have freedom and still come and sit by your side.
Yeah, because some of these things were saying, no, we don't want to. Hey, wait, we want to go with you on this trip.
Exactly. So, right, exactly. So, but you won't know that they're really choosing that. You won't really know that your bigger responsibility is to keep those things with you so that you can give them love, until you've already given those thoughts this freedom and then noticed what it is that stays. But you notice when it stays, it doesn't feel like a burden to you at that point.
No, they're all happy. They're like, hey, good, we're going. This is great. We're going on the trip.
Exactly. Okay. And you notice it feels a lot lighter to you to be lovingly going on kind of a, hey, the more the merrier kind of movement forward in love than a, oh my God, I have all these things. I have to take them with me, but I'm not supposed to take them with me. But
Yeah, and some of the things are going like, oh, finally, she's letting us go. God,
right.
I'm tired of being with this woman. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to be with people who appreciate me. Yay! I can't believe they're saying this stuff, but they are. I mean, unless I'm totally losing it. But.
No, but that's the thing. So the things that it is time for there to be this movement forward, right? Mm-hmm. You giving that freedom, do you see how that's still a gift of love to grant that freedom?
Yeah.
Okay. And then meanwhile, you can now you've freed yourself up to give just an embracing and just a love to all the things that are asking to stay with you in that presence of love. Okay. But so now, having felt this, having experienced this yourself, can you now see how it's got nothing to do with the size of the living space?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet at the same time, it can be really helpful. I don't care if you're in a one bedroom thing or if you do have the 10 houses, it's once you do tune in like that and get really clear about it, there might be things that you go through and get rid of. I'm not saying don't get rid of any stuff. I'm just saying right. It's always about the internal first,
Yeah.
So does it feel a lot easier now to move forward with that and not this tug of war?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It feels a lot more freeing, and it's freeing to the other thing, everything too, because they get to decide. So.
Right. And it lets you remain in that position of you just coming from love.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're coming from love, then you're giving the freedom, you're giving, and with love, and you're giving the freedom to stay, and that you're going to nurture those things with love. And that's always when you feel best. You feel good when you're operating from your natural state, which is love. When we don't feel good, it's just our signal that we're off trying to pretend to be something else, like limited and unhappy and not good enough and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So let's check in from here. Okay. I don't see anything new on the chat thing. And I did put my number on there. So if anybody else wants to call and check in, you can do that. But first, let's really complete that with everybody, because there's a little bit more loose ends about that, because it's not just in terms of belongings or physical stuff. Okay, I want you to take a minute to tune into whatever it is that pulls your attention, that pulls your thoughts, whether it's the things on your to-do list, whether it's conditions in your body and your health, whether it's interactions with other people, whether it's your financial situation, your bank account, whatever it is that you're having an excess of thoughts about, right? Instead, and feeling that, and the belief, the lie that gets perpetuated is the idea that has to be solved first in order to reduce the excess of thoughts about it, in order for you to be able to be again that love that you are. Okay. And of course, it's the opposite. It's about you coming back into that love that you are, remembering that love that you are, right? And then from that place, addressing what's actually going on with the thoughts, which then is what creates the situation or resolves the situation, whatever it is. Okay. So we're going to take everybody through that in just a minute. Let me see what's new on here. Oh, Pete says, for the exercise this morning, although I felt small, I felt infinite. I I'm am. Yeah, that's fine. When I say that expansiveness and that spaciousness, that's where I'm primarily talking about, is in your understanding of yourself. So feeling infinite is good. All right, so take a minute to have a deep breath. And bring to mind whatever it is that you've had this real excess of thoughts about. And that you felt this tug, this pull, this sense of, because that's what happens. It's like what Nancy said. It's this sense of, oh my God, I need freedom from this, right? And we think that the way to get freedom from it is to fix whatever the situation is. That if we're plagued by too many thoughts and worry about our bank account, for example, that the solution, that we'll feel free of that when the bank account is to a certain level. And yet, of course, we all know that's not the case. It's because then if your patterning is such that you are at this level of vibration of over concern and over thoughts, that it's going to perpetuate. Okay. Or even if it's that excess of thoughts just about yourself and your overall situation, whatever it is, bring it forward now. And bring forward that sense of, I've got to get free from this. Bring forward that yearning for your natural state. Bring forward that feeling, that agony of thinking that you're separate from your own freedom, your own love, your own joy. Okay, so what if that freedom, that recognition of remembering that infinite love, which of course is incredibly free, that you already are, what if that's already there, it's already available to you, and your first step to experiencing it is actually granting it to all the things that you thought were keeping you from that freedom? Okay, so all the things that you thought had you bound, would you be willing to lovingly grant freedom and liberation and love and space and an unconditional givingness to all of those things? Whatever you thought had you bound, would you be willing to set it free? Okay, and notice what that feels like. Okay, let's see. I've got a chat. I'd like to look at the physical body sensations I am experiencing, sometimes feeling dizzy and disoriented. When I ask, I hear to be quiet and slow down, and yet I still feel some concern. Okay, cool. Let's look at that then. Okay. So first of all, a word about, and I think I've mentioned this from the beginning, but it's something that's always my intent and that we're going to continue with as we go through, is that the most helpful information you always ever can get for you is from you, direct from the source inside of you. So the more, all the things that we're working on resolving and harmonizing and clearing out and bringing back into resolution, all those things, whether I mention it directly or not, are always going to be contributing toward you knowing and understanding that truth inside of yourself and being able to guide yourself from it. Okay, so always what you know in you, from you, trumps everything else. Okay, so definitely pay attention to those things. So let's address that question. So take a deep breath in and get in touch with that, the fear and concern that arises when, even though you've gotten the answer from yourself that all you have to do is slow down, that fear that's still springing just from that underlying belief that says, well, since I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right? Like that I'm not going to really know the right answer of what to do. And then that translates into, well, something must be wrong. So that dizziness, that lightheadedness, imagine it right now. Imagine it happening. And then the fear that comes with that, the concern that comes with it. And from that open, loving space, would you be willing to just let it break wide open? Right? Because otherwise that little, I don't know, it's almost like prickly, like static electricity, the way those twinges of that fear work, right? So as long as they're just zit, 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 it's almost like you're being zapped with it, right? So if you just breathe into it and let it get as big as it can get to just bust wide open, then it's just, there's going to be one lightning bolt and then it's over, instead of being channeled through all these different, like I said, these little bzz, 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 right? So feel into that, see what it feels like. Taking a real deep breath, just letting that whole bolt just come through wide open, and then see what's there afterwards. So take a deep breath in, give yourself a minute to do that. Okay, so how does it feel now? Type me back a check in there, Katrina, to see how that went once you let it completely run through. Okay, so okay. So some of the things to look at in the next couple weeks is going back and revisiting last time about really setting your intent, including your intent about what it is that you're willing to give to yourself. So I'd really like to, even if you don't send it to me, even if you just share it with someone else, but I forgot to say this last time, if you share it with someone else, then at least just send me a note saying I shared it with someone else, so that then I know at least you were doing your part of that, right? But included in that intent, that list of here's what I'm willing to give to myself. And because that, whatever that level of dedication is that you have to yourself, that's how big you're going to see things come back to you and come back through you and be available to you in this overflow. Okay, so that's one, is clearing up those intents and now adding to it what it is that you're willing to give to yourself, what it is that you're willing to commit to give to yourself in a dedicated way, as if you're actually this wonderful, amazing, special, magnificent soul that's here as a gift on this planet, right? What if you actually were that, how much would you be willing to give yourself, right? So start from there, even if right now, even if you don't necessarily believe it, or even if that's not real to you, that's how you can set up making that list of what you're willing to give to yourself is, well, if I knew, if I really understood that I'm this incredible, amazing, once in a lifetime, once in 7 billion, once in ever kind of gift to this planet, how dedicated to me would I be? How much would I be willing to give to myself? Okay, so I invite you to go ahead and start to look at it from that perspective so that that door is open. Okay, the other thing to have in mind going forward is what we dealt with of shifting your whole approach to yourself and to your process, and even the things that you are committing to, shifting your perspective of it from that you already know what's what and what you're supposed to be and what you need to do, and the idea that you're going to impose that on yourself, shifting out of that and into this open, curious, receptive, listening, and then giving place where you're sitting down with yourself to find out what's going on, and then you're willing to give unconditionally, give endlessly to satisfy whatever that is. Okay, so that ties into that being giving with yourself. As we move forward, we're also going to be doing everything to totally undermine and totally bring out into the open and resolve all of those underlying beliefs that have locked in that mistaken sense of separation from love. So those core things that are running under the surface that say that you're not that, or that you're not whatever. And the first step, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this as an assignment that you can work on your own, which is to sit down and make a list, whether you write it out or, yeah, probably write it out, but give some attention to a list of what everyone has ever thought about you, right? Or thought of you, or what you're basically taking an inventory of what other people's opinions have been of you your whole life, okay? Right? Or what you think their opinions have been of you, because you never know. You might think that somebody thought you were a giant jerk, and meanwhile they were just having a bad day, and you don't know. So from your perspective, for the course of your life, all the way from your aunt that you thought didn't like you because really what she didn't like was your dirty diaper that you got put in her lap with, right? Whatever it was, just take inventory of that, of what other people's opinions were. Because, and the reason for this is that our tendency is to just take those as fact. Okay. So again, in this understanding of being open and receptive and flexible about it, even with this, your assignment isn't, all right, we're going to sit down with this list because all of these, they need to be something else. It's not that. You're just going to sit with these with a curiosity to find out what is the truth about them, right? So sit down with that inventory of what everyone's opinion of you ever was, just with that curiosity to find out, is this true? How true is this? How true is this? Because that's going to do two things. It's going to open the space for things to just be completely obliterated and the truth of you to shine through, okay? At the same time, by you taking that open approach rather than you coming in this domineering way that says, well, we're going to turn it into something good. And then if you have underlying beliefs that actually do believe in that, you're now fighting against them. What that's going to do when you approach it in this open sense of, well, how true is that? Or what is the truth of that? If you do have a lot of underlying beliefs that support it, those are now going to come to the surface. Because when you just ask in that open way, well, how true is this? If you've got a lot of beliefs that agree with it, then you're actually going to get, well, it's a little bit true because I'm kind of a jerk or whatever. And so that's going to, instead of you having been in a fight against that because you were coming in with an assumption, now instead that exposes to you in a gentle way, oh, wow, I didn't really even realize that I thought that about myself in my heart of hearts, right? So it'll let that whole process unfold in a really natural way. And the more of a natural way it's able to do that, and the more space you give it, the more the changes that happen are authentic, right? The more that when you let it unfold in that spacious way, you're not going to then have that experience of, oh, well, I fixed it, but then it came back. And so now I have to go fix it again. If you give it the space to really unfold authentically, there's not going to be that phenomenon of thinking that you have to go back and undo it again. Okay. Because you're going to get a genuine picture of what's actually there rather than something that's skewed because you've already got your own agenda, right? And you know how that is. If you walk into a room with it already in your head, this room is I expect this room to be neat, or I expect this room to be messy, whichever it is, you're then going to have more of a reaction to what you find, or you might actually have a different perception even of what you find than if you just walk in the room asking, I wonder what this room looks like, right? So completely different. So that's the other thing to look at. And the other thing, just watching as you go through everything, as you go through life, as you're dealing with the situations that you're ready to bring more into a thriving place, recognizing that your deepest fear is not what you thought was life or death, right? And just go ahead and address it at the root. If you recognize that what's driving all the worst things that you think could happen, if you recognize that what's driving all of those is this sensation that you think you could be separate from love, well, then you know how to address it. And if you address that from the root, then it can clear everything up. So let me just check in. I've got a, okay, good. Katrina says, there's a sense of peace and an open space, like my own secret hollow in the woods. Oh, good. It's still moving. I'm beginning to get myself as a sacred place. Yes. Good. Yeah. So from that sacred place, then you just are going to let, all the boogeymen and stuff that have been hiding out in the shadows and the trees in the woods, they can all start coming out into that open place where you are, instead of it just being this hit and run thing around the edges all the time. Great. Great. So I'm glad we got that, that feedback back. Good. So just a minute, we're going to close up. Okay, so that gives you a lot to work with. So just before we finish up for today, a couple housekeeping things. Sometime soon in the next week or two, I'll be sending you out your first, it'll either be an audio recording or possibly a video that gives you a process to work with. It hadn't been done yet because it just wasn't, you guys had more work to do first to then have something that was going to have a lot of impact. And then also I'll have a bowls recording. So each of those over the course of the 6 months, I'll send you out 6 of those, but it might or might not line up as exactly 1 per calendar month, right? I'm going to go with what I know is going on and what's going to best serve you. So we kind of had to get some speed ramped up here first. So it might be, and you might get 2 in the month of May, and then we move on from there. But it'll be 6 in total, maybe more. You know how that goes. I think probably every time I've worked with you, things come up and I end up sending more. It's just according to whatever is going on. So just so that you knew, though, that you've not, if by the end of April, nothing like that has come, you haven't missed it. It just wasn't time yet. Okay. Yeah. Cause a quick story, speaking of, how much our intuition will just be on the spot for us all the time. I was about to fall asleep last night and just got this flash of Vivian's passport, and I already have flight booked and everything's in place to take her with me to Bimini in 1 week. And as soon as I got this flash of her passport, I'm rummaging around in the dark. I keep photographs of all of our passports on my phone, so I didn't even have to go find the passport. I look up on my phone, sure enough, it's set to expire the day after what our Bimini arrival date is, which of course is problematic for getting back into the US, right? So right on the spot, I was able to, I found some phone number to call, it's the middle of the night and I'm calling an automated, and it was automated, thank goodness, right? So that's why my intuition told me, even at late at night on a Friday night, but to set up an appointment to go during the week to also fortunately, one of the regional instant passport centers is here in Miami. So all of that is set up. But as far as my rational mind, it would not have even occurred to me to even check her passport because she used it last fall. I know that mine is still good. I just used mine. Wouldn't have thought to be checking it, but I'm, checking in last night before I went to sleep and I get passport. I'm like, what? Her passport's fine. No, it wasn't fine. So all those things we get it taken care of. All right, let's see. We've got a few more things in the chat. Okay, so we got that. Okay, Pete says, I'm with you, Katrina. Good. Thanks for your guidance. Don't worry about spelling. Okay. Oh, Pete says, an unsolicited plug for Bimini. I loved it. Best ever. Bummed I can't be there. If anyone out there can swing it, go. Okay. I think this is Dave says, just wanted to mention when the stuff is coming through regarding the greatest fear, it doesn't seem like it's being separated from love, but the solution of reconnecting with love proves again and again to be the solution after the fact. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's why I said, check it out for yourself. However it seems to you, in my experience, that's what's the biggest thing going on. And as far as I can tell, that's proven out by all the instances where people do walk into death of the body, but it's always when somehow that love aspect they think is being satisfied. So to me, our oneness with love, our recognition of that is trumping even what we call death. So keep working with it, keep playing with it. As Pete said, yeah, Bimini is a blast. That's only 1 week from now. So, if you want to really jump in on that, let me know. It's pretty quick, but it'll of course be a great time. Otherwise, you can start gearing up now for the first week of November. That'll be the next get together for that. So let's take a minute to bring everything complete that you were working on today and open up space for all the things you're going to do on your own. So take a deep breath in. And in the next few minutes, if you just sit quietly with yourself, but you have the intent that you're just willing to receive whatever you need to know from yourself, and that you're willing to give in return to yourself based on whatever it is that you find out. Okay? So that's the intent for right now, is to just decide that you're in that place of openness, right? That you're listening, you're receiving, and that you're completely open to give everything to yourself in return. So just take a minute to tune into that. Okay, thank you so much. As always, let's finish with you taking a moment to have that gratitude for yourself, thanking yourself for being willing to be present, to be here, to be exactly as you are. Even just that, if you're willing to commit to every single day, letting yourself have the message, thank you for being here, thank you for being you, you would really quickly start to remember what you really are. So play around with it. Find what you like. What is it that you're willing to really dedicate yourself to in the way of giving to yourself and receiving? Because it's really, really a foundation for everything else. Okay? So check in. Let me know how things go. Send me an email. Also, scheduling wise, let me know if there's anyone that this morning time doesn't work for. I think this is a great time. I could also equally do a Sunday morning rather than a Saturday. So at first I'd set it up for us to alternate between the Thursday night slots and the Saturday mornings, Thursday nights and Saturday mornings. But let me know if there's any, if we could actually switch to always a Saturday morning or a Saturday or a Sunday morning. It just feels like that might have a little more space for you to integrate everything after we finish, and then having the rest of the, I don't know, just the day and the weekend rather than when we're on the weeknight and you're maybe more in a particular routine. So check in, let me know what you think of that, and I'll see you soon. I love you. I love you. I love you so much. Thank you again for being here.